Good day everyone, I'm Erica Jane M. Ramos from BPED 2D. In this video, I will present and demonstrate a group of abilities which is proposed by Fleischerman 1964 from the movie Apocalypto. So let's start. So there are two types of abilities which are the physical proficiency abilities and the perceptual motor abilities. So let's begin with the physical proficiency abilities. So the first one is the speed of limb movement. As you can see on this screenshot, the character is moving his legs and arms quickly, but it doesn't require a reaction time. So this is an example of speed of limb movement. Next is the gross body coordination. So as you can see in this scene, the actors are running in any direction. And they are doing a lot of movements or a lot of complex movements simultaneously. So this is an example of gross body coordination. Next is the stamina. In this scene, the man is running and someone wants to chase him, so he needs to exert energy and effort to hide completely from his opponent. So this is an example of stamina because he exerts his entire body for a prolonged period of time. Next is the extent flexibility. So as you can see in this screenshot, the man is using a bow and arrow to hit someone, and it requires flexibility to perform this because as you can see, the man is stretching his arms to point someone or to point in any direction. So this is an example of extent flexibility. Next is the dynamic flexibility. So in this scene, this is the fight scene in the movie. So the actor is slided down to avoid the opponent to hit him, and that is an example of rapid movements. And it has a massive flexibility because he stretched his entire body while he's sliding down. So this is an example of dynamic flexibility. Next is the gross body equilibrium. So in this scene, as you can see, the mother is holding or carrying his child. So she needs to stay stable so that they won't fall. So this is an example of gross body equilibrium because the mother maintains a total body balance in the absence of vision. Next is the balance with visual cues. So in this scene, the actor is leaning on a branch of a tree to hide from his opponent. So this is an example of balance with visual cues because he maintains his body balance when visual cues are available. Next is the explosive strength. As you can see on this screenshot, they are carrying a wild pig. So we all know that wild pig is very heavy. So they use their maximum energy to perform this scene. So this is an example of explosive strength because it expands maximum of energy on one explosive act. Next is the static strength. So this scene, the man is trying to push his enemy and requires a lot of force because his enemy is heavy. So this is an example of static strength because it involves exertion of force against a heavy weight or in some fairly immovable object. Next is the dynamic strength. So as you can see in this screenshot, this scene is, as you can see, the wife of the actor is trying to escape and she used a rope to lift her body. So this is an example of dynamic strength because it has the ability to repeatedly or continuous move or support the weight of the body. Next is the trunk strength. So as you can see on this video or in this scene, there is someone on the river and he or she needs to swim and work with his trunk and abdominal muscles in order to survive and to arrive from his or her desired destination. So this is an example of trunk strength because he uses his trunks and abdominal muscles. So we are now done in the physical proficiency abilities. So now let's proceed with the perceptual motor abilities. So the first one is the arm-hand steadiness. So as you can see in this scene, the actor is trying to target something. So he needs a steady arms and hands in order to hit his target. And this is an example of arm and hand steadiness because it has the ability to make precise arm and hand positioning movements where strength and speed are not required. So next is the wrist finger speed. As you can see in this scene, it shows that it has a rapid movement of wrist and fingers in order to perform the things that needed to do in the frogs. Next is the aiming. So in this scene, the man wants to target his opponent that has a predictable movement. So he is aiming to shoot his desired enemy or desired object. So this is an example of aiming because it has a highly restricted type of ability that requires production of accurate hand movements to target under speed conditions. Next is the rate control. So in this scene, the man wants to target someone but his target is continuously moving and changing in any direction. So this is an example of rate control because it involves the production of continuous anticipatory movements, adjustments in response to change in speed. So next is the manual dexterity. As you can see on this scene, the man is carrying a large object which is a human also, and it is manipulated with arms and hands to carry this human. So this is an example of manual dexterity because it has a relatively large objects and that is manipulated with the hands and arms. So next is the finger dexterity. As you can see, he or she is doing something with a small object and it only requires fingers to perform it. So this is an example of finger dexterity because it has a manipulation of small objects and it uses hands only. Next is the multi-limb coordination. So in this scene, the man is running and he uses all his body parts to perform this simultaneously because in running, it uses all the limbs to move simultaneously. So this is an example of multi-limb coordination because it is the ability to coordinate the movements and the number of limbs simultaneously. Next is the control precision. So as you can see on this scene, they are crossing the river where the water on the river has a strong pressure. So that has a possibility to sweep them away. So they will need a strong muscle to keep stable while crossing the river. So this is an example of control precision. Next is the response orientation. As you can see, the guy is running very fast and someone wants to hit him. So the man who is running needs to choose if he will run or shot by the other man. So it involves quick choices. So next is the reaction time. So as you can see, the man is nearly hit by his opponents. So he reacts very quick so that he is not hit by that object. So this is an example of reaction time because it has a single response and it has speed of reactions is critical as in simple reaction time. So this is the end of my presentation. I hope you learned something and thank you for listening.